We're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks today. I've been purposefully avoiding them. I've been purposefully not talking about them by choice. I haven't really had a need to. I mean, what else is there to say? But we do have a lull in the action here in the postseason. That Celtics and Sixers game last night. Complete and total snooze fest. So I decided, you know what? Why don't we just talk about the Mavericks, right? There's some stuff to talk about. There's some things I want to get off my chest, so make sure you watch this full video because in the back half, I'm just gonna let out some things that I was biting my tongue about throughout the whole season, and now, fuck it, I'm just gonna say at this point. Oh yeah, my cat look at my arm. My cat destroyed my arm. So thanks for that, buddy. Tim Cato dropped an article for The Athletic a few days ago. I'll touch over some talking points, some interesting tidbits here and there. And then again, I'll just get some stuff off my chest that I've been wanting to say that I have kind of said here and there, but I'll just come out and say it now at this point. Who cares? This will be the last time I talk about the Mavericks until the draft lottery, I guess, which is in under 2 weeks. So not that long, but still, let's just discuss some stuff, get it off my chest, and then we can move on, all right, and enjoy the playoffs as one big happy family. So in this Tim Cato Athletic article, just some interesting tidbits here and there. Obviously, Kyrie Irving was at the Lakers and Grizzlies Game 6 in LA. That caused quite the shitstorm. But Tim Cato reassures us that the Lakers are not going to pursue Kyrie Irving because that would mean they have to give up all of the depth that they trade for, and a big reason why they're making the run they're making now. So that makes sense to me. I was never really that concerned about it because of that reason. That would mean that the Lakers are pretty much saying, all right, we're going back to the big three and we'll just figure out all of our depth pieces from there, despite the fact that that's literally how we're winning. It was through our depth. So I don't think that they would do that. It makes no sense for them to do that. So I don't really see the Lakers as much of a threat to land Kyrie, but I've been wrong about this before. I'm pretty confident Kyrie's staying. In Cato's article, it sounds like the Mavericks are fairly optimistic that he's going to stay with Dallas as well. Some other stuff that was brought up in the article, it seems like the Mavericks are going to be desperate. It seems like Nico Harrison knows exactly what the Mavericks need, which is rebounding and defense. Pretty sure they said something very similar a year ago, that they needed rebounding and defense, and their answer to that was JaVale McGee. But you know what? I'll say something about JaVale McGee here in a bit when I get to my unpopular opinion section, okay? And another interesting tidbit, the Mavericks, They believe, this scares me greatly, they believe that there's going to be a lot of turmoil in the offseason, a lot of teams that are going to be, reconstructing their roster, doing different things with their roster, so they think that they could get some distressed assets for a smaller than usual price, right, for below market value. And this was a big reason why I was a big proponent of the Kyrie trade. Let me just say this, because ever since the Mavericks missed the playoffs, I always get people, because I was a very big advocate for the Kyrie trade. I was begging for basically a week before the trade happened. And I saw people who, tweet me or leave comments or in the chat who are like, are you still happy about the Kyrie trade? I am. Yeah. One of my big reasons why I wanted it was for the future, right? Did I think the Mavericks, that would help the Mavericks potentially win a championship this year? Yes, I did believe that. I didn't realize it was going to turn into such a fucking shit show in the back half of the season. But a big reason why I wanted the trade to happen was I thought Luka and Kyrie together was a very solid building block. That's a very good duo to build around, and you can build around those two moving forward however you see fit. And I still believe that to be true. You're in prime position to re-sign Kyrie Irving. Is giving him a big contract risky? Hell yes, it's risky. It's incredibly risky. Guess what, guys? The Mavericks are in that spot. Do you understand? I'm trying my heart. There's no safe options at this point for Dallas. There's no play it safe, right? And let's just play it smart and safe. We have several years. It's now or never. Do you understand? This is the last year of Luka's contract before things get very fucking scary. Before you have some very difficult decisions to make. Obviously, he's still under contract, but like after this season, that's about when players start asking out. Right? With that much time left on the deal, 2 years left on the deal guaranteed, and then the player option, that's about when players start, saying, hey, fuck this, I want out. So this is like kind of it here, to build something solid and reliable, and you don't have the options to build something solid and reliable, so you have to take risks. This scares me, obviously, concerns me, but that's the position they are in. Like, yes, what they did to go get Kyrie, that's what they need to do. They went out and got a player who, in normal circumstances a player that talented would go for 3, 4, 5 first-round picks. And because, of all the baggage that does come with Kyrie, they're able to get him for a first and 2 older guys. Like, yes, those are the moves they need to make. And some of the names they mentioned, like Chris Middleton, if that's an actual target, if that's not speculation and that's a legit target, what the hell are we doing? Chris Middleton, God bless the guy, right? For some teams, hell yeah, Chris Middleton makes a ton of sense. He makes a ton of sense on that Milwaukee team, assuming he's healthy, right? Because he didn't look necessarily himself after coming off that knee injury, of course. But for the Mavericks, he makes zero sense. Like, a guy like Chris Middleton makes no sense. What's he like? We don't need that. We don't need another, like, sure, we need some wings who know what they're doing with the basketball, right? But a Chris Middleton, his talents would be completely wasted here. Why would he want to come here and be third fiddle, right? Why would he want to come here and essentially sit on the wing or sit in the corner and catch and shoot threes, or every now and then get the ball and be like, hey, Chris Middleton, go create? We already have two top of the line, Hall of Fame level creators. We don't need another third guy like that. Like, our resources are much better spent elsewhere. Our limited resources, mind you. And then DeAndre Ayton's name's in there too. You guys know how I feel about DeAndre Ayton dominating. I think it's a pathetic scenario there. You know, this 7-footer who's just huge, it just does not translate. It does not translate on the court. You never feel his presence in the way that you should. And even when you do, like against the Mavericks, he had a 20-20 game. And I was like, this is the worst 20-20 game I've ever seen. Like, at no point was it like, oh my God, DeAndre Ayton's got 20 points and 20. It was like, holy shit, he actually had 20 points and 20 rebounds. It does not feel like it. But for the Mavericks, again, this is the type of guy you're looking at. Like, maybe you get him for cheaper than a player of his potential, I guess, would typically go for. You bring him in, and maybe you fix some things. Maybe you figure some stuff out. Maybe playing next to Luka, and they're being a little bit less, I wouldn't want to say less expectations, but, just run to the rim and dunk the ball and grab rebounds. You know what I mean? And that's his problem, is that it doesn't seem like he really wants to do that. I don't know. But those are the players that the Mavericks are going to go after. Dylan Brooks is another one. I would be interested, for sure. Draymond Green, yes, I'd be like, we can't turn our nose up at some of these guys, okay? I know that it sounds disgusting, but guess what? The situation the Mavericks are in is disgusting. It is dire straits. It's desperation time, okay? So pretending like they're not in that position, it's just going to set you up for disappointment, I think, because they're going to make some moves that's going to leave some people scratching their heads, but ultimately they got to swing for the fences now, and if they swing and miss, they swing and miss, because they're already halfway through their fucking swing, okay? They're already halfway through the swing, and the ball's up here, their bat's down here. They just need to hope to God that something happens and it's a curveball or something that can hit a fucking home run. Because the way it's going right now, they're Joey Gallo at home plate right now, just swinging at God knows what. But if they connect, it could be good. And another thing in Cato's article I found interesting, Tim Hardaway Jr. has positive trade value around the league. I've been saying that now for a while, that I think Tim would actually get some legit buzz if he were made available. And I fully expect him to not be on the team next year. They've been like shopping him for 2 years now. I don't know how much I want to say this, but there's some stuff that I heard through the grapevine. I don't know how accurate it is, that there's some weird things going on in the locker room between Tim and some people. It's just, again, I don't even want to put that out there. So I would be surprised if Tim Hardaway Jr. is on this team next year. And that would suck. They would have to find a replacement for him. But if he has legit value, you got to explore your options, right? Josh Green and Jaden Hardy were the other two guys who had legit value for the Mavericks, obviously, like not including Luka, where it's like, Josh Green, if the package is there, I'd be interested. Hardy scares me. The idea of trading Hardy scares me because I highly doubt, you would get anything crazy for him. And the flashes we've seen from him are pretty spectacular. So it'd have to be something pretty crazy to include Jaden Hardy for me personally. So I'm scared. I'm scared about the offseason. Everyone, to people who ask me in my chat, like, oh, who are some guys? I don't know yet. I haven't really dove too deep into it, and I will. Trust me, I will. Last year we did like an 8-hour, off-season target stream where I went through every team. I had, stats and everything for all these players. So I'll put something like that together again. We're still months away from that, so I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm just focused on, watching legitimate fun teams play. But truth be told, I mean, looking at this Mavericks roster, of course, assuming they keep Kyrie, I don't think they're that far. And this leads me into my unpopular opinion. Let me get some stuff off my chest portion of this video. I don't think the Mavericks roster is that far away. I don't. I know that sounds crazy to say. I think if you played this past season for the Mavericks, everything that happened, like the Kyrie trade happens, you play that season 100 times, I think we probably got, if not the worst outcome, like a bottom 5 outcome. I don't know how often, if you replay the season, something like this happens again. I thought they got a little bit unlucky. Like the end of game stuff, sure, a lot of that is terrible coaching. A lot of that is bad execution and stuff. But late game, clutch situations, those things have a ton of variance. And year by year, they go up and down, up and down, up and down. And it takes some luck sometimes. And I think in some instances, the Mavericks got pretty unlucky in close games this offseason, or this past season, sorry. You win 2 or 3 of those, or a couple bounces go your way here and there, you're in the play-in or you're in the playoffs, and we feel much differently about this season, right? You have some, freak injury shit, like Maxi Kleber tears his fucking hamstring in practice. Doesn't really look the same once he comes back. Luka hurts his heel going up for a dunk over Jonas Valanciunas with, in a 30-point game, something that did not need to happen. He gets hurt. He has to miss time. He is never the same afterwards, right? That doesn't happen. Who knows where they're at? So I don't know. I personally don't think this roster is that far away. I think if they're able to upgrade in some positions, like if they pull out their desperation moves and they get lucky, which it's not a high chance. Like I'm telling you right now, I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, right? But if they get lucky and they get a legit upgraded center and they get a defensive guy on the wings that they feel comfortable plugging in there, I think they're going to be good. Like part of that is you do all of that, and let's just say you keep your roster, somewhat intact. Otherwise, the guys who you were expecting this much out of, you're now expecting this much out of. So they all of a sudden play much better. And you feel much better about those guys than you did last year whenever way too much was being asked of guys like Reggie Bullock and guys like Tim Hardaway and guys like Dwight Powell and, some of the other, Josh Green. Now those guys, their expectations come down to here. And it's much easier for them to do what they need to do. Christian Wood was also mentioned in the Tim Cato article. It sounds like his day as a Maverick is done. And now that it is, I'm not going to bite my tongue anymore. Guys, you got to look yourself in the mirror. All right? You really do. You got to have some shame. If you think Christian Wood and playing Christian Wood more would have saved this season, still, I don't know what the fuck to tell you other than, and I don't like saying this because it's mean and it just comes across bad. You don't watch much basketball outside of the Dallas Mavericks. Like, that's just what that is telling me, because I want you to go look at the playoff rosters right now. And not just right now. Go look at the playoff teams from the first round, even the teams that got eliminated. Please point me to a player like Christian Wood. Go ahead. I want to know. That archetype player. No defense from your big. Bad rebounder for his size. Needs the ball in his hands. Wants to create. Please point me to a player like that who's on winning basketball teams right now. It's mean. It is what it is. He's a talented player, right? I wish him all the best. But guys, this is not an archetype of player that winning teams have. It has not been the case. Maybe 15, 20 years ago, but not now, okay? And I still see people, going to bat and people saying this and this whole we need to bring Christian Wood back. No, we don't, man. We just do not. Playing Christian Wood an extra 10 minutes a game was not saving our season. Okay, starting Christian Wood was not saving our season. It just wasn't. It's time to come to grips with this. He's cryptic tweeting. There's these rumors about stuff that his agent is sending to people in their DMs, and this is what Cato said in the article. And I'm not gonna lie, I've heard some stuff as well, but again, I won't go into it, right? But yes, Christian Wood's not coming back. The Mavericks will move on. Christian Wood will be on his 8th team in 8 years, and I wish him all the best wherever he ends up next. But for the Mavericks, he was not what we needed. He just wasn't. That trade is so fucking stupid in retrospect. At the time, infamously, I did not want Christian Wood on the team. But after it happened, I was like, okay, well, they gave up a late first-round pick and a bunch of nothing contracts. Like, who cares, right? But then I'm like, okay, looking a little bit further, didn't the Sixers give up a late first-round pick for, DeAnthony Melton? That would have been a much better move for us. Shit, getting, Royce O'Neal would have been a better move. So, just in retrospect, that was stupid. But, whatever. I still think ultimately they didn't give up much of anything to get Christian Wood. And yes, it would probably have been better to use that pick to get somebody who actually made sense on the roster, especially because it sounds like the Mavericks weren't even really interested in having Christian Wood to begin with. So, I don't know, puzzling stuff there. I guess I have 3 unpopular opinions here. None of them, all of them are going to be, all of them are very unpopular. Anytime I say anything close to anything like these opinions, I always get shit on, but it is legitimately how I feel. What should we start with? I guess they're not that unpopular. Like JaVale McGee. I think JaVale McGee has a role. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think if you make some roster tweaks, if you bring in certain guys, like maybe better wing defenders or something, or you go out and you get a bigger forward, or maybe you draft a bigger forward who could space the floor a little bit and is mobile on defense, because there's a couple of those guys in this draft. JaVale McGee makes a lot of sense, actually. like as this rim protector and rebounder. Not a guy who's going to play 25 to 30 minutes, but just as like a spot minutes guy. I wouldn't be surprised if JaVale McGee, assuming he's still on the team, has a little bit of a bigger role next year than he did this year. That wouldn't shock me at all. And you know what? Like, I thought at times, especially towards the tail end of the season, he was our best big. Like, he was. I don't know. That's always going to freak people out. Well, Christian Wood, when he was starting, was averaging 20 points. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. My Luka opinions haven't changed much. I don't love that he's playing in the World Cup. I get it, though. Like, you can never ask Luka to not play in international competitions, but I do think a full offseason off will do a lot for him. It would really help him just recover. He's played so much basketball lately. So much is asked of him. You know, we've had these weird injuries now for like 2-3 years where they happen and they're not like devastating. He doesn't, knock on wood, he doesn't have to miss months at a time, but he misses a week here and there. He misses 2 weeks here and there, and then it takes him a little bit to come back, and he's not the same for like a week or two. Like those, whenever you're so reliant on a guy, and this isn't Luka's fault at all. This is the front office's fault. I get that 1,000,000%. But whenever you're so reliant on a guy, those hurt, man. Those are injuries that you really can't afford, and I wonder if we would avoid those injuries a little bit more if it weren't for the fact that we're going on, like year 4 now of just consistent basketball all the way through. I know he's going to have 2 or 3 months off this offseason, but there's a reason why guys don't play that much in the summer. Like, there's a reason why. And I wonder if at a certain point in his career, he's going to have to pick and choose tournaments, but he's never going to do that. Just save the fucking comments. I get he's never going to do that. I'm just saying from a Dallas Mavericks fan perspective, it would be a smart thing for his career. I believe that, truthfully. And my final unpopular opinion. This one always gets me in trouble. I don't like, Kidd is fine to me. I guess that's like, if you want to, I feel the same way about Jason Kidd right now as I did right before Rick Carlisle got fired, when there started to be like a big movement of fans who are like, you know what, like it's time to move on from Rick. I didn't necessarily want to do it, but I didn't really care either. Like, if they did move on, I understood he was getting older. The Mavericks needed like a player coach, a younger guy who could resonate a little bit more. I got that. I knew that it would be next to impossible to replace Rick Carlisle's, legit coaching abilities, because he's a top 5 coach in the league and one of the best coaches of all time. But I was cool with it, and that's kind of how I feel about Kidd right now. Obviously, Kidd's nowhere near the coach Rick Carlisle was, but I really don't think he's as bad as people say he is. I'm just going to be blunt and honest and upfront. I really don't. I have been urging Mavs fans for so long now to just peek around other fan bases. Go to other teams' subreddits, explore other teams' Twitter, see what they're saying. See what they're saying about their coaches. I got bad news for you, man. It's not always the coach's fault. And this isn't just true for Mavs fans. This is true for literally every single fan base, because it's so easy to blame the coach. He's the sitting duck, essentially, right? I really want you guys to tell me, point me to a coach that would have succeeded with this roster. I would love to know. With this center rotation. I would genuinely love to know. And you know what's hilarious, right? Mike Daigneault, who we all love, great coach. The Thunder did a great job, right? They finished 1 game better than the Mavericks. Part of me wants to say they were more talented than the Dallas roster. Truth be told, that like obviously they don't have the top end, firepower, the star talent that the Mavericks had with Luka Doncic and then Kyrie once they traded for Kyrie. But Shea was pretty fucking good this year, right? And they had, I would say, just a little bit more depth. Their 3 through 7 was better than the Mavericks 3 through 7, and their center rotation was also horrific. And guess what? They finished with around the same record, and they had the same exact problems the Mavericks had. No interior defense, no rebounding. It's hard to win, man. And we all accept Mike Daigneault is a good coach. And I'm not saying I want you guys to think Jason Kidd's a good coach. I'm just saying I would just really wish people would believe the roster is the problem here. Like, in my opinion, Jason Kidd's like 5% of the problem, maybe 5%. And then like 80% of the problem is this roster construction. It is next to impossible to win when you do not have interior defense or rebounding. Watch the playoffs right now, guys. Please watch the Knicks play. Watch how many fucking rebounds they get and watch how much it changes the momentum of the game for them. Watch the Warriors play. Watch, like, they won that series on the back, obviously Steph, but on the back of Kevon Looney for generating so many second, third, fourth opportunities for them. The Mavericks don't do that. They don't get defensive rebounds. They don't get offensive rebounds. They don't protect the paint. They don't stop anybody from getting to the paint. Guess what? You're going to fucking lose. And I would love to know what they should have done differently. Like, how should they have played differently? They don't have the guys. The guys aren't there. This was a weakness that was massively exposed against the Warriors last year, and they did nothing. They went out and got Christian Wood, who was horrific on defense, and JaVale McGee. That's what they did. And then they traded our best defender for Kyrie Irving. Again, a trade I'm cool with, assuming they actually do some things in the offseason to address these needs. But you're like, I can't get there blaming Kidd for all of this shit. It's just crazy to me that we're still doing this too. And a couple days ago, like, a video was resurfacing. This video is like a year old of Jason Kidd saying he's happy for Jalen Brunson and it's his job to get guys paid. And everyone was freaking out. I'm like, what? What are we mad about here? Like, we're just mad to be mad. What did he say that's wrong? Like a coach saying, yeah, I want my guys to get paid. Oh, I can't believe Jason Kidd fucking said that. I'm not gonna lie, the Kidd stuff has been eating at me because, like, there's a huge portion of the fan base that thinks you replace Kidd, this seems like the 4 seed. I don't know what to say to that. I just don't. I have nothing. That's not true. I do have something. How much? God, it just sounds so mean asking this, but how much do you watch outside of the Mavericks? Because, guys, there's no team left in the playoffs who has what the Mavericks have in their front court. It doesn't exist, where they don't rebound and they don't play defense. There's no teams left. They don't exist. Those teams don't succeed. Those teams hardly win games. It's a miracle the Mavericks did what they did a year ago. It just is. Their defense was so on point. But, I mean, if I'm being brutally honest here, are we just, like, not giving Kidd any credit for that? Because that was pretty remarkable. That defense, the way they were on a string, the way they moved, their rotations, how crisp they were, that was really impressive. He coached laps around Monty Williams. I don't know how much of an achievement that is now, because I don't think Monty Williams is that great of a coach. But is that nothing? Like, are we just, I don't know. I couldn't get there all season long with blaming Kidd. You know, I had a couple moments here and there where I was like, yeah, Kidd, get the fuck out. And again, if you fired Kidd tomorrow, I don't care. But it's just not this huge pressing need for me. The roster has to get fixed. Full stop. It has to be addressed. These things need to change. And if they don't, you're going to be bad again. If you don't go out and take the center position seriously, you will be bad again. If you don't get some wing defenders, you will be bad again. And those guys are not cheap. So this is what I'm saying. This is going to be a scary offseason. They're going to have to go get distressed assets. Like, that's their best opportunity. They're not going to have the pieces to go get Mikal Bridges. Okay? They're not going to have the pieces to go get OG. All right? We're going to be talking like a Dylan Brooks. We're going to be talking to Draymond Green. We're going to be talking to DeAndre Ayton. And you just have to hope those guys, if they get here, are ready to turn some stuff around. Obviously, for Draymond, it's a bit different. I would happily bring Draymond onto this team, by the way. But, man. Anyways, I started recording this video with zero plan. I hope what I said made sense. Streaming-wise, I won't be live again until Sunday, maybe Monday. I have softball tonight. I have a wedding this weekend I'm going to. I might be able to stream on Sunday, but there's no guarantees. My hangover might be something serious, and if that's the case, I'm not streaming.